So this is a very big day for Democrats. You may not know why, but I'm going to tell you. This is for a party that needs some good news. They've gotten some good news on the Senate recruiting front of late, and I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you why it matters. So Sherrod Brown, former U.S. Senator, he lost a 2024 Senate race to Bernie Moreno in Ohio, even as Donald Trump was carrying the state of Ohio. Well, Democrats have been really trying to get Brown to run again because he's a three-time elected U.S. Senator, try to get him to run either for governor or Senate in 2026. Well, Brown, according to sources cited by the Cleveland Plain Dealer, has made his mind up, and he is going to run for the Senate in 2026 against John Husted, who is the former lieutenant governor of Ohio, who was appointed to the Senate after JD Vance, who held the Senate seat, got elected vice president. Okay, so this is a big deal, not just in Ohio, but nationally. Let's talk about Ohio first, and then we'll talk more broadly about why I think this matters for Democrats nationally. All right. Ohio, back when I was a young political reporter, 2000 era, was the swingiest of the swing states. It is no longer. This is a state where Republicans are very likely in a neutral political environment with regular sort of standard issue candidates to win an election. That Trump has won it 3 times in a row at the presidential level. They have a Republican governor. Both of their senators are now Republicans. The statewide elected officials are almost all Republicans, if not all Republicans. And so I don't know that Sherrod Brown's going to win in 2026 and beat John Husted, who will be running for the remainder of JD Vance's term. But here's what I do know. Brown is going to give Democrats the best chance of winning there. He's going to probably keep it pretty close. Some of this depends on the national landscape. If the national landscape favors Democrats, then Brown's going to keep it really close. If the national landscape's neutral, it'll be hard. If the national landscape favors Republicans, he's not going to win. But he will keep it close. He's a known commodity in that state. People have been used to voting for him in the past. Donald Trump won't be on the top of the ballot in 2026 like he was in 2024. And that means a lot of things. But the biggest thing it means nationally is even if Sherrod Brown doesn't win, it's going to force national Republicans to spend a bunch of money in Ohio. And Ohio is a big state with a lot of media markets, and that's expensive. And every dime that they're spending there is a dime they can't, or $100,000 or $1 million, they can't spend somewhere else. So I think it matters in that regard. In Ohio, we expect it will now be a close race. Husted will have real competition from probably the best Democrat who could run. Doesn't mean Brown will win, but best Democrat who could run. Now, why do I think this matters more broadly nationally? Well, I told you a little bit. The money being spent there means money not being spent anywhere elsewhere. But I'll tell you more about why I think there's a little bit of momentum for Democrats happening here nationally. But before I do that, I want to make a pitch to you, which is I hope you become a subscriber to this channel. I've got 2 words for you: independent and authentic. Independent from big media, independent from the 2 political parties, just calling it how I see it without fear or favor, and authentic. You'll always get my honest assessment of what's going on. I'm never going to pull punches so that I get more subscribers or don't lose subscribers. I'm always going to tell you it honestly. You know, if I'm telling it to you, I believe it. Doesn't mean I'm right, but it means based on my years of experience, I think this is what's going to happen, and I don't have any agenda behind it. All right, so why does Ohio matter more broadly? Well, let's set the scene about the Senate. So Democrats need to pick up 4 seats in the 2026 election to retake control. Republicans have a 3-seat majority right now, 53-47. But remember, the vice president of the United States is also the president of the Senate. So JD Vance breaks all ties when it's a 50-50 vote, which means that Republicans, even if it's 50-50, Republicans would still control the Senate because they'd have basically 1 more Republican vote in Vance. So 4 seats necessary. They need to net 4 seats. Keep that in mind. On the biggest, broadest numbers, it seems doable. Republicans have to defend 22 seats in 2026. Democrats only need to defend 13 seats. But the broad numbers don't tell the whole story. So out of those 22 seats, only one of them, Maine, is a state that Kamala Harris won in 2024. So there are 22 Republican-controlled seats up. 21 of them Donald Trump won. On the Democratic side, it's more problematic. They have several states, Georgia and Michigan being the two most prominent, that Donald Trump won, where they are trying to hold their seats. So 22-13 looks good, but when you dig into the numbers, it's a little more complicated. So how do Democrats get there? Well, you have to have a Sherrod Brown running in Ohio to give you a chance there. It's not a guarantee, but Ohio is now, I think, a competitive seat. So by the way I see it, you have 5 definitely or potentially competitive seats that Democrats hold and 5 that Republicans hold. So we've got 10 total seats that might possibly switch parties. For the Democrats, you have an open seat in Minnesota. You have an open seat in New Hampshire. You have Georgia. You have Michigan. Okay, those are your biggest ones, I think, to kind of keep a watch over. So that is Minnesota, open seat, New Hampshire, Georgia, Michigan. So I said 5. It's 4. I miscounted. It's 4. 4 seats that Democrats currently hold that are in some level of jeopardy. Georgia and Michigan, states Donald Trump won, obviously, I think, in more jeopardy than New Hampshire and Minnesota. On the Republican side, 5 seats. So 9 total. 5 Republican, 4 Democrat. Sorry for the miscount. 5 seats. Those are North Carolina, which is an open seat, Maine, which I mentioned earlier. Kamala Harris won that state. Susan Collins, a Republican, is up for re-election in 26, as well as Iowa, Ohio, and Texas. Okay, so that's 5. Now, what matters? North Carolina was always going to be competitive, but Democrats got their best possible candidate, popular former 2-term governor Roy Cooper. He's running. Best possible candidate, not a guarantee they win, but puts it in a good spot. Then in Ohio, as I just said, Democrats got their best possible candidate. They got Sherrod Brown, right? Not a guarantee that he's going to win, but makes it competitive. So now we're waiting on Maine, Iowa, and Texas. Can Democrats find the right candidates and hope that the political environment works in their favor? So in Maine, we are waiting on Janet Mills, who is the outgoing governor of the state. She would be Democrats' best candidate, best known candidate, best chance to beat Collins. Does she run? We don't know. In Texas, you have a field that already includes Colin Allred, who ran in 2024 against Ted Cruz and lost. He's in. Does James Tallarico, the very telegenic and now sort of viral, popular state rep, run? What does that look like? What's the best candidate in Texas? And does Ken Paxton, the controversial Republican, beat the incumbent John Cornyn in a primary? Still don't know. In Iowa, there are 5. You heard me right. 5 Democrats running. The most recent of which, who got in today, the same day Sherrod Brown got in, August 12th, is a guy named Josh Turek. Interesting guy. State rep, so in the state legislature in Iowa, represents a very Republican district as a Democrat. Also, amazing personal story. He was born with spina bifida. He is a 4-time Paralympic. He's appeared in the Paralympics, 2-time gold medalist in basketball in the Paralympics. So a pretty remarkable personal story there. But there's a bunch of candidates running, and we don't know how it shakes out. We don't know if Joni Ernst, the Republican incumbent, is going to run or not. So a lot of what ifs. But what I would say is if I'm Democrat and I'm looking at the Senate, I look at it and I say, we've gotten some good news. We've gotten some big, high-profile people deciding they're going to run. They're going to be in, right? They look at what they think the 2026 midterm election environment is going to look like, and they say, yes, I want to be involved in that. That's Roy Cooper in North Carolina, by far the best recruit. That's Sherrod Brown in Ohio. In New Hampshire, Democrats got Chris Pappas, the congressman, their best possible recruit. In Minnesota, there's a primary, but you have Angie Craig, who I would argue, and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, both credible, serious candidates. Craig probably the better candidate, but 2 really good candidates. In Iowa, lots don't totally know that field, but looks good. Colin Allred or James Tallarico, probably pretty good in Texas. Can Democrats get their candidate in Maine? Janet Mills. All of these, in Michigan, there's a primary, but it's a lot of good candidates. All of these things, candidates don't run if they don't think they're going to win, right? It's not a guarantee you're going to win, but Sherrod Brown is not going to run again for the Senate if he thinks, well, I'm definitely going to lose, right? He's running because he thinks he can win. That makes a gigantic difference. Candidate recruitment is a sign of momentum. It is a sign of belief. belief that this next election is going to be good. Roy Cooper is betting on that. Sherrod Brown is betting on that. The field in Iowa is betting on that. Colin Allred and maybe James Tallarico are betting on that. And the question is, do more Democratic top-tier recruits bet on that? In Alaska, for example, Mary Peltola, moderate Democrat. She lost the at-large House seat in 2024. Does she run against Dan Sullivan for Senate? If she does, now maybe we're talking about something semi-real. In Nebraska, you've got Dan Osborne, an independent, running against Pete Ricketts. Does that race wind up being credible? Osborne ran in 2024 and lost by 6 points as an independent to Deb Fischer, the other Nebraska senator. So what I would say when I look at this is, it looks to me like Democratic top-tier recruits are betting on 2026 being good for their party. They are broadening, by making those bets, they are broadening the playing field that this election is going to be fought on. Like I said, right now we're talking about 9 competitive seats, potentially 4 Democratic, 5 Republican. But let's say we add an Alaska in there, or a Nebraska, or maybe even a Mississippi. Well, now we're up to 7 or 8 competitive Republican seats. And now the possibility of Democrats netting 4 seats becomes more real. Now, you need a lot to go right for you. You need contested primaries on the Republican side, particularly in a state like Texas. Maybe you need Joni Ernst in Iowa to drop out of that race, make it an open seat. You need Janet Mills probably to run in Maine, and you need a national political environment where Donald Trump is unpopular and voters want to send him a message and hand back control to the Democratic Party. So you need a lot of things to go right, but the pieces are starting to come into place. Okay, the pieces are starting to come into place, and I think that is a very good thing for Democrats because they haven't had that much good news, but people are voting. Candidates are betting on them. And I think that's the best sign that they think 2026 is going to be good. Not a guarantee, but I think a bet that does matter, with Sherrod Brown being the latest example. All right, everyone. As always, I ask you to do a couple things. Number one, please hit that subscribe button for me. Second, you can like and comment on this video in particular. That helps me grow my following to people who aren't already subscribers. Last thing you can do, you can just tell somebody about what I'm building here and why you think it's important. I'm making a bunch of videos every week, usually about 8 to 10 a week, as well as a live stream every Friday. I am also have a members tier, the Diamond Club, where you get exclusive content, an exclusive weekly live stream, and a bunch of other fun videos. So you can check that out too if you want to join. All right, everyone. Thank you and take care.